Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to present the 2013-14 Annual Policing Plan for the Bermuda Police Service. This is the second of three plans under the three-year strategic plan for 2012 to 2015. The plan is aligned with the financial year 1st of April to 31st of March so that available funding and operational priorities can be considered together. It has been prepared in consultation with His Excellency the Governor and the Minister for Public Safety. The final document represents the shared aims across the community for the police to deliver a high quality of service that is focused on people and aimed at security. Our operational priorities remain the same as the last 3 years. We are focused on those crimes that are of the most concern to the community and that cause the greatest harm: guns, gangs, drugs, and violence. Our work this year will not only be aimed at making Bermuda safer, but making Bermuda feel safer as well. In our small community, the fear of crime is just as important as the actual crimes themselves. We will therefore focus our work on 5 basic policing functions. Firstly, bring dangerous offenders to justice. Secondly, make our neighborhoods safer. Thirdly, reduce the fear of crime. Fourthly, provide visible, accessible, and effective uniform patrols. And fifthly, calm the traffic down on our roads. Some of the key initiatives in the plan include increased capacity to seize criminal cash and assets under the Proceeds of Crime Act, expansion of CCTV across the island, increased visibility and accessibility of uniformed police officers, selective traffic enforcement program, or STEP, which is aimed at dangerous driving behaviors with strict enforcement, an anti-corruption framework that includes a drug testing policy and an enhanced vetting policy for secure areas and sensitive areas like firearms, drugs, and intelligence, a call center to provide support for non-emergency calls that do not require an immediate police response, partnerships with the island schools to deliver joined-up education and prevention initiatives on gang resistance, drug awareness, and road safety, expansion of the Neighborhood Watch Scheme and the community action groups in partnership with the Ministry of Public Safety, the development of a code of practice, also in partnership with the Ministry of Public Safety, for the planning and safe management of large public events, a review of the Bermuda Reserve Police in order to get the most effective use out of the volunteer hours, and internally we will conduct training and implement programs to maintain a quality and skilled workforce that is healthy, motivated, and properly equipped. Thank you.
At this time, I'll entertain questions from the media.
Yes, I have a question.
Tarai?
Commissioner, I don't mean to sound, to be cynical, but how is the policing plan for this year any different from what police normally do? I mean, some of the stuff that you mentioned, guns, corruption, gangs, are standard stuff that people expect the police to deal with.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a good observation. The idea is not to reinvent the wheel every year, nor are we trying to do things drastically different. What we are trying to do is make sure that we set very clear priorities so that when questions are asked internally and externally, what are we doing? We say these are the things we are doing. And where it becomes an issue is not so much on the obvious stuff like guns and gangs and drugs and violence. It becomes an issue when people expect us to do some of the non-traditional things that we used to do back in the day when policing was a lot cheaper. So what's happening now is we're expected to still turn up to help direct traffic at road construction and things like that, where no longer do we have those resources available because all of the resources we have available, and this is what the annual plan is, it's a statement of where we are going to put our resources. This is about managing expectations.
Can you elaborate? You have one of your action plans, which you didn't mention some of it today, but it's in the actual plan, was expanding CCTV and enhancing it so it can detect number plates?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Was that budgeted for? I didn't see that in the budget.
Yes, it's part from last year's budget and part from this year's budget,
Okay.
and.
You get to keep the money from last year?
Sort of, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, part of it is, part of the infrastructure is already there. So this is a contract that's currently under review by the cabinet, so I can't give any further details. But what we asked in the RFP that was put out was basically for as many cameras as we could afford in the budget, and to spread that out across the island, not just in North Hamilton where we started, and also to start looking at the enhanced technology that's available. And the two big ones that are used in other jurisdictions is automatic number plate recognition and also facial recognition. Facial recognition is a little bit advanced, but certainly the ANPR is quite standard.
So your RFP was asking for facial recognition as well as number plate recognition?
To explore it, because we recognize that's pretty top tech stuff that probably we wouldn't be able to afford. But the whole point is, if you tell in an RFP, if you say what your future aspiration is, then the platform that you start out with might not have it today, but maybe it's something we can afford in the future.
Okay. What is the coverage of CCTV right now? How much coverage do you expect to get once you select a contract?
Right now, we have cameras throughout the city, cameras in North Hamilton, cameras at Barnes Corner, cameras in a couple of points in Somerset. And the idea would be to expand that so that all major arteries and junctions, as much as possible, are covered.
On another note, there's something in there about screening officers a little bit more to rule out corruption. How much of a problem is it? How many of your officers have you found to be corrupt and incorrigible and need to be kicked out?
Well, over the years, and fortunately, it hasn't been something we measure on an annual basis, but certainly over the last 10 years, we've had enough to make it a concern. I don't know what the world average is, but I don't think the percentage in our organization is any different from any other police agency or any other organization. The issue is really, for me, it's not so much about weeding out the corruption, because I am convinced that we don't have anything like the problem that some people in our society would have us believe. It'd be almost impossible to keep it under wraps so tightly for so long. For me, it's about setting the example and modeling the behavior so that it can be a model for other agencies and international partners. And that's really a big key here. The international law enforcement community, more and more, are going towards vetted units whenever they deal with sensitive information. So if you're a police agency in the States, for example, before you reach out to an island in the Caribbean, you want to make sure that the officers you're dealing with are vetted the same way you are, and the information will be just as secure in the other jurisdiction. So really, this is less about weeding out corruption. It's more about just doing the right thing. I think it's overdue.
The community's the biggest concern is obviously gangs and guns. Having highlighted the plan, what can you say to the community to reassure them that that's not being forgotten? It's a priority.
I don't think I need to say anything. I think you need to look at the results and look at the number of convictions that we've achieved through the DPP's office in the last 3 years. Look at the arraignment, the monthly arraignment list on the first working day of the month, and see how many people we've got lined up for trial, and look at the number of trials that have been successful because of eyewitness testimony, where people are coming forward and testifying. So I think the assurance, hopefully, the proof is in the pudding, as they say, that the results that have been churned out in the last 3 years against violent crime should speak for itself.
With police being rather successful in limiting the amount of drugs that are on the street, the prices have skyrocketed. How are you targeting these areas even more, for specifically the Somerset area? pound of marijuana basically going for $40,000 these individuals are making. I mean, it's going, what's your intelligence tell you about drugs on the street, the prices and the market?
Well, I don't have that at hand, but certainly I will ask those questions when I go back. I think for us, what we've realized is that when you turn up the enforcement heat in one area, there's very often a sort of side reaction somewhere else, and that's what's happening here. One of the interesting phenomenons that we're seeing is that because of our increased presence on the street, the actual open-air drug markets that perhaps the community suffered 5 years ago, 10 years ago, have dried up. But what that is doing is it's driving an underground market, which is obviously just as serious and just as much of a concern. But I don't have figures on prices just right now.
Any other questions?
Yeah, what's the absentee rate?
I'm sorry?
Absenteeism, is that a big problem?
Well, I don't know about a big problem. It is an issue that we're dealing with. We have about 20 officers right now, so that's about 5% that are either on long-term sick or long-term light duties, and one is almost as bad as the other. So they're either not coming to work because of medical issues, or if they are coming to work, then we can't deploy them operationally. So that's 20 jobs every day that don't get done, or they have to get done by other people with a cost. So obviously we want to help those staff get back to work and get healthy as well. But again, it's not all about just correcting that. In the plan, we talk about some things we want to do around welfare and efficiency. And it's not just to get our staff back to work, it's to help our staff who are at work stay at work and stay healthy. And just sort of, we're taking a pause that not everything in policing is all about handcuffs and being out on the street. You know, we've got to run a major corporation here, and part of that is we've got to look after our staff, and we've got to keep them healthy and fit and well trained and well equipped.